Can Ozzy figure out how to get over the hurdle of being a massive physical threat and integrate himself into a tribe to have a shot?
Three-time player Ozzy is hoping to avoid repeating his fate from the fans versus favorites season.
I'm going to try my darndest not to get blindsided. Hopefully I can just make enough strong alliances and really convince people in the very beginning that having me around is an asset. For me, that might actually be one of the smartest moves to make. Getting far enough along and then having my alliance cut me loose, and then I'll go to Redemption, make friends with everybody, beat everybody, but make friends, and then take home the million. I want to play like it's my last day on Earth. I want to really enjoy everything.
But there is one thing Ozzy won't enjoy this time. A steamy island romance, like the one he had with Amanda during his last season.
I think Amanda's a really amazing person, and sadly, our jungle love didn't survive in the city. At this point in my life, I would rather finish off this game on a high note than to get taken out because of some silly crush in the middle of the game.
If I were Ozzy, I'd go to coach and say, let's run these kids right out of this game. I'm going to pretend to think you're an idiot. You keep telling everybody I'm a threat. Of course, I'm not playing this game, just hosting.
Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else in hopes that it all ends in a satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time they're introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain, and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. Now, for reference, we are only observing what the TV show is showing us and what stories are being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story characters here have no idea about what happens in those future seasons. I will be utilizing secret scenes and behind the scenes footage to flesh out the story, and all character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And now with that,
39 days, 18 people, 1 survivor.
Survivor is back in Samoa. Now, don't let the name South Pacific fool you. We have escaped the ugliness of Nicaragua, no doubt, but we are back to the same location we were in for seasons 19 and 20. We have 16 new players again, with 2 returnees in Coach and Ozzy. This season, heads up, is almost a one-for-one copy, format-wise, from season 22, which did finish airing before this one began filming, so everyone here should be familiar with all the twists that are about to come. And we hear from Ozzy when he says,
I've been the guy that's able to climb coconut trees and hunt fish. I've also been really strong in challenges, but I don't think I've had the best strategy. This time I'm more mature and I've learned from my mistakes. I need redemption because I feel like I just haven't been able to lock my hands on the $1 million. I've almost been there a few times and I just haven't been able to finish.
He was so close to winning at Cook Islands, only losing to Yule by 1 vote, and then he got killed by the Black Widow Brigade in Micronesia. But this time, Ozzy is determined to not be blinded by any woman and to play strategically. We shall see. The newbie players are excited to see Ozzy, but none of them really want to see Coach, which is great for Ozzy. We then see Christine of the Blue Upolu tribe call Ozzy and Coach temporary players. Big mistake. Ozzy and Coach are then given eggs to break to see which tribe they're on. Ozzy smashes his against his heart because, as we know, he is an emotional player and he embraces this. Ozzy then beats Coach in a one-on-one hero match for reward, the first ever in Survivor history. And upon arriving at the Red Savai camp, Ozzy is all in on playing that strategic game, except he finds Semhar really hot. It hasn't even been 24 hours, Ozzy. Really? You're already doing this? We then see Dawn worried about swimming without her swimsuit since she is a married Mormon mother, and Ozzy walks right past her and says,
not having the swimsuit is like a little bit of a dilemma for me because I'm not used to swimming with people I just met.
In the nude.
With my underwear, for the love, I have 6 kids.
We then see a contrast between the two camps as Ozzy says, we can do the shelter anytime. And we cut over to Apolu where Coach is taking charge immediately and has his tribe working to get a shelter built fast. We then see Dawn compare Ozzy to Bob Marley, saying, they're both not really leaders if you know what I mean. She then accidentally spills the pot of water on their fire and...
I'm good.
Are you sure?
No, because this is the part where I just need like human.
Yes, of course. This has nothing to do with the game right now. This is two people talking.
I'm like 15 years older than all of you.
No, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't quit, as long as you stay strong and fighting, you'll be in this game. You have what it takes to keep going. I had a conversation with Dawn, and she's a little bit scattered, a little bit frazzled, a little bit very paranoid. And whatever I can do to calm her nerves is my job at this point. I am the anchor. Listen, I'm here for you. If you want any advice, just ask me.
It just seems too weak. I hate it. I'm just having a meltdown.
I know. You don't need to let it get to you.
Okay.
Just feel it and let it go.
Ozzy is all emotions, but I must say he has really matured since we saw him in Cook Islands and Micronesia. He is 5 years older than the first time we saw him, so it makes sense. We then meet Cochrane, the tribe's nerd, who has nothing to offer but quips and jokes and just self-deprecation out of his butt. Ozzy says, I do not know what this guy has to offer our tribe at all. They then lose immunity by one coconut, and the blame seems to be placed on Semhar, the one that Ozzy finds really hot. Ozzy says, okay, who cares if she blew the challenge? Having these women around are an advantage. Cochrane needs to go. Jim says, sure, Semhar's body is mesmerizing, but he cannot believe Ozzy wants her here just because of that. I mean, Jim, I can believe that. So at Tribal, they all vote and...
I think it's pretty obvious why I'm voting for you. You've questioned my intelligence, you've questioned my commitment to this game, and you're making me question why you have to be here any longer, so I can't take it.
First person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Semhar. Semhar, the tribe has spoken.
That is it for the premiere, and as a returnee on a season with mostly new people, of course Ozzy is a main character. But despite his tribe attending Tribal first, his name was not thrown out, which is good news, especially after we saw the target being placed on Robin Russell last season. With Semhar's mesmerizing body gone, we shall see if Ozzy can focus on the game or if his eyes will shift to someone like Elise or Whitney instead. By the way, did you know that Patreon is free to sign up for? Yes, that is the place where I give updates, post videos early, and have you all pick what I make. Now has a free option. Link in the description, you can cancel anytime, and there's a 15% discount if you do sign up for 1 year. Thank you for your support. Episode 2 sees Ozzy a bit annoyed that the tribe wanted Semhar out when he sees Cochrane as equally if not more useless than her. He says Cochrane may have a passion for Survivor, but if he doesn't try harder, then he is gone next. Oh, but there was something else that happened in the premiere that I failed to mention. At the immunity challenge, Jeff stated that whoever wins the challenge will get a clue to an idol back at their camp, telling everyone that yes, there is an idol at each of your camps. Ozzy's tribe didn't win, but just knowing there's an idol at his camp is all he needs, as...
Ooh, methinks me found something. 3 times around, you start learning what to look for. Rocks and trees are a good sign that you found something good. I've had one of these little guys in my possession before, and I was stupid enough not to play it. I really squandered the opportunity to get really far in that game. I am sure as hell not ever gonna let that happen this time. But can't let anybody know that I have the idol. If anybody senses that I have the idol, there's a very strong possibility that they're gonna try and flush it out. So if I can make it to the merge and I could use it in an opportune moment, this might be my ticket to the win.
First Micronesia and now South Pacific, Ozzy has a nose for idols. We then see Ozzy in the majority alliance on his tribe with himself, Jim, Keith, Whitney, and Elise. Cochrane, Papa Bear, and Dawn, they're on the outs. They then win immunity, and at the Redemption Island arena, Christine eliminates Semhar in her mesmerizing body as Ozzy watches and probably is internally crying. He then talks to Keith and says, dude, I have the idol. Keith says, sweet. That is the whole conversation. Amazing. However, Keith then snitches this info to Whitney, who, by the way, is married and is having a whole thing with Keith that is gross knowing that she is married. Anyways, Keith snitches this information to Whitney and says he doesn't like that Ozzy has all this power. We then go to the immunity challenge, a classic that you may recall from Micronesia where Ozzy single-handedly won it for his tribe. Here, however, his tribe fails him, not giving him enough rope fast enough, and as a result, they lose. Back at camp, Ozzy says it is between Papa Bear or Cochran. Cochran is upset to hear his name again, mostly due to Cochran having ego that he just plays off self-deprecating jokes, but Cochran views himself as super valuable, but he has nothing to offer the tribe. But who cares? He has no power. So at Tribal, they vote and...
Third person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Papa Bear. Papa Bear, tribe has spoken.
It is now episode 4, and as a reminder, Dawn is married and not cheating on her husband. Whitney is married and cheating on her husband with Keith, so that means Elise is the only single lady available on the tribe. And of course, Ozzy and her are a thing. New strategy for a new season, as Rupert said right before he did this same exact thing as always. Jim sees the Ozzy and Elise showmance and wants to break it up, which is wild considering Jim is part of their 5-man alliance. I mean, these two are part of the alliance. He then presents an idea to Ozzy and...
Here's my thought process. If we have an opportunity, the other tribe thinking that we're weak might give us some type of play.
I really think it's too early at this point. I would just hate to plant that seed now and give them extra fuel. If you plan on going far in this game, you definitely try to think a few steps ahead, but Jimmy's trying to play the strategy point too much. Strategy.
Oh,
strategy.
No more strategy.
Jim, calm down with the strategy. We have weeks. Chill out, bro.
I'm not sure that's how I've seen Ozzy play the game in the past. I think he's strategizing. He's just done it somewhere else or at a different time and place, and so he doesn't want us strategizing. And that just irks me to no end.
It seemed like as soon as you guys left, Ozzy's like, no strategizing, we're not strategizing. And I just think that's baloney.
I mean, so much for playing a strategic game. Jim is trying to think ahead and Ozzy is not interested. Ozzy is an in-the-moment kind of person, not really a planner, at least from what I can tell. Also, I believe Dawn is massively misread Ozzy. It's not that Ozzy doesn't want others to strategize, he just doesn't want to hear or think about it. Christine then eliminates Papa Bear on redemption. Dawn wins Savai immunity. Nice. And in episode 5, Stacy goes to redemption to face off against Christine, but before she does, she drops some valuable information.
It wasn't a team. It is Benjamin, Albert, and Sophie. But who's the ending to? Benjamin and Albert.
Benjamin,
team.
coach.
What's his name? What was his birth name? It wasn't Coach. It was Benjamin, wasn't it? And they're children, 26, 22. They over there listening to all the Benjamins, Halloween jokes, Chucky the Cheese jokes. They want it. He going out for loyalty, got them feet. Oh, Ben was so loyalty. Come on, man. Every day got a story. I wasn't buying it. No. So they trade like yesterday, like the tribal was all cahoots. Benjamin, let's give a hug. Keep that hug. For me, because it wasn't real.
I know that seems like a joke, and it kind of is, but she is being truthful about who's running things over on Upolu. Albert, Sophie, and Benjamin. When Dawn comes back to Savai, she relays this valuable piece of information to everyone else, and Ozzy says if Coach is smart, he would remove a physical threat, like Albert. Jim goes, whoa, what the heck? If Ozzy thinks that Coach should remove someone physical like Albert, then that means he probably wants to eliminate someone physical like me or Keith. Jim thinks that Ozzy's down to remove his strong allies if given the chance. I mean, that actually makes sense, actually. I see where Jim's coming from. I don't think Ozzy plans on doing that soon, at least not now. I think he would do that like post-merge, but I see where Jim's coming from. Ozzy then jokes with Cochran about how to spell his name, masquerading as a joke, and Cochran says Ozzy is so lazy. Now we get both sides of the story though, when Ozzy explains how underwater fishing takes a lot out of you, despite how easy it looks.
Having watched Cook Islands and Fans vs. Favorites, you see Ozzy as this kind of superhuman, Mowgli-esque guy that can do no wrong. But Ozzy has kind of faded into this middle-aged Ozzy who, has a few moments of glory each day where he runs out and gets us some fish. But otherwise, he's just kind of a lazy ass. He's becoming the arrogant fisher boy, jungle boy, who feels like he can do no wrong and that he's entitled to our deference. And the more he acts like this, it's going to come back to bite him in the ass.
This show is letting Cochran write the narrative somewhat, but truthfully, Ozzy does so much more work than Cochran gives him credit for. He is more mad because Ozzy keeps targeting him to be voted out of the game. That's really what's up Cochran's butt right now. Though that arrogant statement that he made about Ozzy reminds me of what Penner said in Cook Island, so there's probably some truth there. Their tribe loses immunity by 2 ounces, not much at all, and Ozzy says Cochran is next. Obviously, this guy sucks. So they all go to vote, and
It's the second to last stop for the train. Sorry, man. Hope you get that second chance.
Cochran. Cochran. It's 2 votes, Cochran. Dawn. 1 vote, Dawn. Elise. Elise. We're tied. 2 votes, Cochran. 2 votes, Elise. Dawn. We're tied. 2 votes, Dawn. 2 votes, Cochran. 2 votes, Elise. 1 vote left. 5th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Elise. Elise, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 6 sees Ozzy ticked. His tribe and alliance blindsided him by removing his lust interest yet again. And this time he says, screw all of you, I'm a free agent, and by the way, I have the idol. How about them apples? No one is scared or impressed, and Ozzy comes across as a whiny baby. The next day, Ozzy goes out fishing and acts like if his tribe wants any of this fish, then they better work with him, or else. If there's anything we know about Ozzy, he puts a lot of value into the fishing he does. A lot.
I don't know if Ozzy's temper tantrum is going to continue well into the future, but the less pleasant he is, the better it is for me. So I hope he continues, being a crybaby because it's great for me.
Oh, no, seriousness. He's just behaving like a stupid bitch.
Funny but true. We see Ozzy watch as Christine eliminates yet another one of his lust interests on Redemption. The only time he ever goes Redemption, by the way, is to watch his lust interest get eliminated by Christine. And back at camp, he apologizes for his temper tantrum and says it was a mistake. They win immunity, and while on reward, Ozzy says if he doesn't win the $1 million, then he wants someone else on his tribe too. He's in good spirits now. Back at camp, Ozzy needs to chop a chicken's head off for some sustenance, and he has Cochran hold the chicken's body. Cochran feels shamed for doing so, which doesn't help as Ozzy says Cochran closing his eyes and leaving his mouth open as Ozzy chopped the head off was so funny. Cochran can't take a joke though, he does not like this, but he sure dishes a lot of them out. This is all secret scene though, but I wanted to mention it. Christine then eliminates Michaela on Redemption, and since this season is a 1-for-1 copy of the last, Ozzy knows that the next Redemption Island duel is likely the last for the pre-merge, and
Cochran and I got back from the duel, and I wanted to let Cochran in on my worst case scenario plan. I don't want to go to Redemption, but if it comes down to it, if it's like a do or die situation, right, I will go. Hopefully win.
The general sense around camp is that the merge is happening sooner rather than later. And now Ozzy suggested that he'd be willing to make a pretty bold move in the event that we lose our next immunity challenge. He's considering lending his hidden immunity idol to somebody else on the tribe, allow Ozzy himself to get voted out of our tribe so that he can be sent to Redemption Island Arena and duel against Christina, and then hopefully win, come back to our tribe and keep our numbers intact. 6-6 tie going into the merge.
It's an admirable thing, man. Seriously.
I mean, it's just, sometimes you just gotta sack up and go for it.
Wow, I mean that plan is brilliant. It feels super risky and not logical unless you know for a fact the next duel's the last, but it's brilliant nonetheless. They do lose immunity to the Apollo cult because yes, the other tribe has formed a cult family. It's not really here nor there. It's gonna be a different video. Check out any of the Apollo videos for that one. But in the meantime, Ozzy is mad at Cochran for blowing the challenge, and back at camp, everyone tells Cochran he needs to go to Redemption to redeem himself from sucking so hard in challenges. Cochran has no desire to go and views himself as a mastermind. I mean, he literally tells us this. Again, he has an inflated ego. But the next morning, Ozzy has a cowboy circa Cook Islands dream where he sees himself as the Trojan horse who can eliminate Christine. Keith and Whitney hate this plan though, and continue to guilt Cochran for letting someone else fight his battles. Meanwhile, they're having an affair, and the moral high ground coming from them is a bit laughable. At Tribal Council, Ozzy tells Jeff the plan to vote him out, and Jeff is confused, but Jeff really knows what's about to happen. Ozzy gives Cochran his idol to hold on to, and then
22 seasons of Survivor. I've never seen anything like this, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it, especially if it means saving my ass for one more tribe. Thank you.
7th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific.
Lucky 7.
Ozzy, need to bring me your torch. Ozzy, the tribe has spoken.
That has to be the happiest vote out I've ever seen. On Redemption, Ozzy tells Christine that Cochran played the idol on him and voted him out. She believes him, of course. I mean, she's been on this game since day 6. She doesn't really know what's going on. And Ozzy is excited that his master plan is working. So the next day, at the Redemption Island Arena,
I gave pretty much everything to my tribe,
and then we lose one challenge because somebody can't operate a clip, and that ends up being the person that sends me here. You play the idol, you don't even... I know someone else probably knew that you had it. As far as I'm concerned, tribe boundaries, I mean, if we're at the merge, they don't exist anymore. It's all 1 for 1, and whoever sticks together from this point on makes it farthest in the game. But I thrive under the pressure to come back in the game for revenge, basically.
The acting was so bad. Wow. It would have been better to say nothing at all or just keep it really simple, but Ozzy went way too far. And yeah, Cochran does indeed give Ozzy the idol back. They merge, enjoy the feast, and that night, Coach is appalled that Dawn and Jim are cuddling with a blanket and a pillow, non-sexually, just for warmth. Keith and Whitney are cuddling with a blanket and pillow, sexually. All the while, Cochran is sleeping alone with nothing. Okay, Coach, well, you can go cuddle with him then, I guess. Oh yeah, and that reminds me, let me catch you up strategically. Both tribes are tied at 6 members apiece, and neither tribe is budging, which means we will likely have a tie vote incoming with a potential rock draw. For the first time since season 4, Ozzy and Dawn both win immunity, and Ozzy plans on playing his idol for Whitney, which means the odds are in Savai's favor, as only 2 of them, aka Jim and Cochran, will have to draw rocks against 5 Upolu members because Coach is going to sit on his idol and not play it. Jim is adamant this is a good plan, and Cochran confirms multiple times that he is okay with this. Ozzy then talks with Coach, and
I wanted to play this game so bad with you, man.
Yeah, and I mean, you still have an opportunity to come with us, and I would guarantee you, coming to the end with me, I would screw my tribe over. This could possibly secure the top 6. We have the numbers on our side, and I hope Coach sees the writing on the wall. I will basically guarantee Coach the final 2. Not really, but of course, that's what I have to tell him.
Dude, was I born yesterday? Absolutely, Ozzy. Let's play this game together and let me just vote off my tribe. Nietzsche once said that when you have more arrogance, you have less wisdom. I really appreciate you talking to me, especially since you hold all the cards. I don't ever want to say Coach is in control, but I really think I'm in control. And in this game, the weak will become the strong.
It's all a ploy, and neither party is really buying it. Rocks will be drawn tonight. At Tribal Council, Ozzy and Savai are confident since the numbers favor them. So they all go to vote. And
if anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so.
I'll play it. Might as well. Now's the time. It's for Whitney.
This is a hidden immunity idol. Any votes cast for Whitney will not count. First vote. Keith. Rick. Keith. Rick. Keith. 3 for Rick. 4 votes, Keith. Cowboy. Rick. That's 5 votes, Keith. Rick. That's 5 votes, Rick. Keith. 6 votes, Keith. Rick. We are tied. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to re-vote. You can only vote for Keith or Rick. Keith and Rick, you will not vote. If anybody is thinking about changing their vote, this is your last chance. First vote, Keith. Rick. Keith, 2 votes, Keith. Rick, 2 votes, Rick. That's 3 votes, Keith. Rick, 3 votes, Rick. Keith, 4 votes, Keith. 4 votes, Rick. Keith, 5 votes, Keith. 8th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Keith, need to bring me your torch.
Coward.
Keith, the tribe has spoken.
Coward. Don't talk to him like that. That's what you get. Stay close to me.
Cochran flipped. Wow, he claims it was not personal, but it definitely was. Let's be real. There is one move I believe Ozzy could have made to negate Cochran flipping, and that would have been either to give him his immunity necklace or play the idol on him and not Whitney. In that scenario, the odds of Cochran flipping are lowered significantly. But hindsight is 2020, and back at camp, Ozzy calls Cochran a wiener in confessional, which is the chillest response and also a pretty funny one, as Jim and Whitney both blow up on Cochran and make him feel very small. Ozzy says the writing is on the wall, he has to win out on immunities. Speaking of which, Jim wins immunity, aka the opposite of what Ozzy needed, and he talks to Coach and says, I don't want to go, and Coach says, it's nice to see Ozzy being somewhat humble, and to Ozzy's face he says, I don't want you to go either, man. Jim then says to Ozzy, hey, I'm gonna give you my necklace, and pitch to the other tribe who claim to be honorable about why Cochran should be voted off for not being honorable because he flipped. We then see Ozzy stand in front of a rainbow and says, I will never give up. Oh yeah, Ozzy will be gone soon. This is a heroic send-off. At Tribal Council, Ozzy is confused as to how Cochran ever felt like he was small in their tribe, and Cochran mentions how pretty much every time they went to Tribal, Ozzy wanted him out. True, Ozzy doesn't even argue this. In a not so shocking twist, Jim does not give Ozzy the necklace, and then...
You have been trying to get me out since week 1, so I don't think it's that inappropriate for me to be voting for you.
First vote, Ozzy. Ozzy. 2 votes, Ozzy. Ozzy. 3 votes, Ozzy. Cochran. Cochran. Ozzy. That's 4 votes, Ozzy. 2 votes, Cochran. Ozzy. That's 5 votes, Ozzy. 9th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Ozzy. That's 6. That's enough. You guys fell for my master plan. Ozzy. Once again, tribe has spoken.
For me, that might actually be one of the smartest moves to make. Getting far enough along and then having my alliance cut me loose, and then I'll go to Redemption, make friends with everybody, beat everybody, but make friends, and then take home the million.
It is time to see if Ozzy can channel his inner Cook Island self and run the gambit on these challenges. He goes to Redemption, catches a massive fish, and the show just paints him like a boss. Quite literally, Ozzy is being built up as a final boss. More on that later. Jim is voted out, and upon arriving at Redemption, he talks about how Upolu is a cult and Coach is the leader.
Cochran has played the most brilliant third place game in Survivor history.
You can't predict the impossible that somebody would be that much of a freaking just coward.
I mean, that's really what, coward is like the word that just keeps ringing over and over for me.
Somebody that literally won't fight their own battles. Let somebody else do it for them and then stab them in the back.
Well, and it's somebody that has the philosophy that they're playing not to lose. They're not playing to win.
I said that to him when I was like, how do you feel like you're playing? Do you feel like you're actually, contributing? Like, he literally hasn't done a single thing this entire game.
Zero. He's nothing but a liability.
But Elise wouldn't have done this.
Elise would have been hotter to watch, too.
Yeah, Cochran did in his chances of winning with that flip. He burned 5 people all in one move. At the Redemption Island Arena, Ozzy stares down the other players in the game as he easily beats Jim and Keith. He says he loves being able to do nothing but eat and make friends with the jury. Out of everyone who has been on Redemption in both seasons, Ozzy definitely seems the most at home, as he is clearly thriving and is edited to look like a true survival man. With Jim and Keith gone, Ozzy cannot wait to mow down the opposing tribe.
7 people left in this game. Caught 7 fish today. I don't know if that's an omen or what, but I like those numbers.
So decided to name the fish just to pass some time, trying to go for as many fish as there are Upolu members.
I think this one was Cochran. The little guy. Actually, no, this one. This little guy was Cochran. And this was Edna. And I think this one's gonna be Brandon. And then later, a little bit later, I'll eat Coach, Albert, Sophie, Rick. Take them down. One by one.
Is Ozzy cocky? Oh yeah. Has he earned the right? Sure, why not? When the Upolu cult is the villain of the season, seeing Ozzy be the arrogant underdog doesn't really detract from rooting for him. The show clearly wants us to want him to succeed. Dawn and Whitney are then voted off back to back, and at the arena again, he easily beats them both. That means that just Cochran and the Upolu cult are left. Ozzy howls at the sky as yet again, for the 3rd time now, if I'm counting correctly, the show paints him as a complete boss on Redemption Island, the clear favorite to win it all. Cochran is voted out, and when he arrives on Redemption, Ozzy says, if you reach the final 3, I'll vote for you. Will you vote for me? And Cochran will not commit. This dude wrote an award-winning essay on Survivor juries and doesn't even know The 101s, the basics of just saying yes to appease potential jury members? Come on, man.
Are you gonna cry when I beat you?
Probably. Are you?
When I beat you?
Yeah.
I think there is a chance I can beat Ozzy, but it's definitely a David versus Goliath scenario. Ozzy is this huge challenge monster who, up to this point, nobody has been able to take down. I'm this little pipsqueak who has been a disaster in every challenge. So I'm definitely David. Ozzy's definitely Goliath. I have my slingshot in my back pocket and a stone ready to fire, and I'm gonna aim for the middle of his eyes and hopefully take him out.
Think I have a chance beating you at a duel?
You have a chance. Everyone has a chance. He really doesn't stand a chance.
Ozzy wins the duel and stays alive!
Heyo, he is now 2 challenges from getting back in the game. He then gets to choose who gets to see their loved ones. Unlike last season when Mike got to pick anyone in the game, including himself, Ozzy can only pick those who are not on Redemption. So he chooses Albert, Coach, and Brandon. So on Redemption Island,
And I'm not gonna BS you, man. I'm always gonna be straight with you, right? And I want you to be straight with me, and I want you to keep this conversation confidential.
Of course.
Okay? As soon as you get back from Redemption, it'll be at either 6 or 5. I've got a perfect final 3 scenario. You, me, one other person. I'm giving you my word, dude, as a Christian man. You'll notice in this game, I'll say, hey, it would be great to take you to the final 3. When I say as a Christian man, I promise you that this is what I'm going to do. That's an irrevocable promise. I want to take Ozzy to the end. 2 noble warriors fighting it out to see who the sole survivor is.
Me too.
You and me in the final 2, man.
Let's do it.
I cannot wait.
Coach says he promises as a Christian man, which is more than his usual lying and half-truths. Let's see if he means it this time. Edna is voted out, and upon being on Redemption with Ozzy, she says he is wonderful with the hospitality as he feeds her everything he can, and then he eliminates her from the game. That was Ozzy's plan after all. Feed people, get them well fed, and then send them on their way. Send me on my way. Hey. Ozzy is a bright spot in an otherwise bad part of the game, and it works. We then see Brandon voted out, which takes us to the finale. Finale time. If Ozzy wins this last duel, he is back in the game. Brandon arrives and says, I only got voted out because I gave Albert my immunity necklace because I love and trust Albert. Ozzy is blown away, and I'm blown away. I'm sure you're blown away just hearing that. First Eric and now Brandon. How does this keep happening on Ozzy's seasons? He then makes a very astute statement when he observes that Brandon plays Survivor like he's playing with God, when in reality he's playing Survivor with greedy people who just want the money. But this is it. The next challenge is for all the marbles. Ozzy stands on a post on Redemption to show how cool he is because the show really wants to hammer home how Ozzy is a beast. So at the Redemption Island Arena,
Brandon is out of the duel and out of the game. Ozzy stays alive and is back in this game with a shot at the $1 million.
Here we go. Ozzy is back in the game against the 4 Upolu cult members. No one is happy to see him back. No one. But who cares? They're the villains. Coach talks to Ozzy and says if he wins immunity, then he will use his idol to save Ozzy, the idol that Coach sat on at the merge. Big if true, but Ozzy doesn't buy this at all, and why should he? Ozzy then gives Coach the same offer to him to take him to the end, and unlike Coach, I think Ozzy's being truthful because Ozzy doesn't really care. He knows he can beat anyone in the final 3. We then go to the final 5 immunity challenge, and
this challenge is on. Ozzy is now in the lead. Sophie trying a new strategy and is quickly gaining on Ozzy again.
Hey Albert, drop your stack and come pick up my pieces.
I'm in a pretty decent spot right now. Hold on.
Drop your damn stack and pick up my pieces. I'm gonna beat you.
I gotta. All right.
Albert, just drop your stack.
Let me make it easy for you. There is no helping in this challenge. It was designed as an individual challenge. It'll be played as an individual challenge. If you want Ozzy out of this game, beat him. Ozzy wins immunity. You are safe tonight at Tribal Council. After 37 days, Coach, Rick, Sophie, Albert, one of you from this tight group of 4 going home tonight.
Coach is so mad now. He says Ozzy's arrogance is amazing, aka Coach is upset that things are not going his way. Ozzy talks to Albert about voting off Sophie under the guise of her being a brat, which I'm not saying he doesn't believe, but I think actually he wants Sophie gone because she almost beat him in that immunity challenge. He then tells Albert about the final 3 deal that Coach offered him in secret, and Albert asks Coach about it, and Coach does not confirm nor deny anything. Coach just is like, oh yeah, now I want to vote out Ozzy. You see, Coach is really mad that Ozzy is spreading around this supposed secret because Coach wanted Ozzy to think it is true and to take him to the end, but if Ozzy didn't win immunity, Coach is going to vote him out. Coach was just trying to secure a final 3 spot. He just didn't want to be called out on his lies. At Tribal Council, Ozzy and Sophie get into a fight that essentially boils down to him saying, "You're a brat," her saying, "You never talked to me, how would you know that?" And she says, "You're arrogant," and he says, "How can you know that? You've never talked to me." She says, "Whatever," and cries. Oh boy, Sophie's video will be something else to analyze. So they all go to vote, and
first vote, Rick, Sophie, Rick, Sophie. We're tied. 16th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific. Rick.
Go have a seat. Oh, Rick, come on. Have a seat, man. Okay, it's all right. Go have a seat.
Rick, Travis spoken.
Well, Albert actually voted with Ozzy, but Coach sat on his hands and voted with Sophie. Ozzy says it doesn't matter, I'm only 1 immunity away from winning it all. Ozzy is the final boss. Anyone who beats Ozzy, I think, would win this game. Ozzy has clearly placed all of his eggs into the immunity basket. He even gets coconuts and doesn't share them with the tribe, but whatever, because the other 3 don't share their fruit with him. Coach then talks to Ozzy, and
I have put all my cards in one basket, which was trusting a couple people, right, and got screwed because of it. The worst part is I let myself care about that person. And when I cared about that person and they stabbed me in the back, it was even worse. So this time I've been so guarded that I felt like I couldn't trust you yesterday. Right. Getting over that issue has been one of the most difficult things. Even though what I told you is true, and I do want to go to the end with you because I still believe that that's how this game should be.
I go to Redemption Island, and I said, as a Christian man, I want to play this game with you. And I specifically said, don't tell people about what I've told you here. It's between you and I.
Coach is a crybaby when things don't go his way this season. Oh, boo-hoo. Ozzy called out your blatant lie. Get over it. As Sandra once said, it's not about you all the time. Ozzy then proposes an idea to Coach when he says, when you or I win immunity, let's have Albert and Sophie make fire in a tie vote. Have them earn their spot in the final 3. Coach says, I love this idea. Let's do it. Yeah, sure, Coach, sure. So they all compete in the final immunity challenge, and
Ozzy with a huge lead. Do not panic, you will have time. Anybody can win this challenge still. Sophie has her first piece of the puzzle. Ozzy had a huge lead, and it is gone. Sophie has her 4th piece of the puzzle. Sophie wins final immunity! This guarantees you a spot at the final Tribal Council.
Wow, Ozzy got 8 individual wins this season, and here at the most crucial time is when he blows it. He isn't even bad at puzzles, he just cracked under pressure. Back at camp, Ozzy tears up in a confessional as he already knows Coach isn't gonna stay true to his word, and right on cue, Coach is hooting and hollering as he knights Sophie and calls her the new Dragonslayer for beating Ozzy. Ozzy apparently is the new dragon. Ozzy then talks to Coach and says, if you want to truly be honorable and be the Christian man you claim to be, you will let me compete against Albert in a fire-making competition. But let's be real, you and I, person who's watching this video, and me, Coach is running a cult this season and constantly lies all the time. So we know this isn't happening. They all go to vote, and
pride comes before the fall, my man. Hope you learned a lesson in humility.
Because I am the new Dragonslayer.
17th person voted out of Survivor South Pacific and the 9th and final member of our jury. Ozzy, need to bring me your torch.
3rd time's the charm, baby.
Ozzy, Travis spoken.
I'm more proud of this game than I played in Cook Islands, which I got into the end. I'm more proud of this game than Micronesia, which I'm not proud of at all. I decided I didn't want to play the game of Survivor and end up in a really pretty place with my body totally intact. I wanted to play where I skid in broadside, totally used up, worn out, beat down, and battered, but at least I could say, what a ride. what a ride this was. Losing, or really not winning and becoming fourth, it's not the end of the world. I didn't even know I was going to play this game, but 2 weeks before it came out here. And I had the chance of a lifetime yet again, 3rd time in a row. 3rd time's a charm, baby. I probably won't ever be back.
So let's break this down. How is Ozzy as a character? Ozzy somehow combined his major features of his prior 2 times playing Survivor into one. He was the arrogant underdog. The show shied away from his arrogance in season 13 to really push his underdog tale to make you root for him. But then in season 16 pushed his arrogance to the forefront since he was no longer the underdog. This time we get both, and frankly, it's balanced well. Ozzy was arrogant and he was an underdog. I can see why some would root for him and others would find this off-putting. But to me, this was by far the most balanced Ozzy story we've gotten so far in his 3 seasons of playing, and he really fit the final boss narrative super well. Out of 18 character moments shown on the show, 13 were heroic and 5 were villainous, making Ozzy a hero character on Survivor South Pacific. Now, how is Ozzy as a strategist? Honestly, not too bad. Yes, he is a major reason why Cochran flipped, but I believe if he plays his idol for Cochran and not Whitney, the rock draw happens and the odds of Savaiu winning it is really high, and it makes Coach look like a fool for not playing his idol. However, if Ozzy were to win that rock draw, he would no longer get the underdog edit and frankly would have been a lot less fun to watch. But I think he beats almost any final 3 combination if he gets to the end, no matter what. He's freaking Ozzy this season, and he got 8 individual wins. Dude is a beast. Out of 50 strategic moments shown on the show, 30 were smart and 20 were dumb, making Ozzy a smart strategist on Survivor South Pacific. Thank you for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. I'll see you all next time.